Hey everybody, welcome back. Haven't made a couple videos in a while, so I figured I would do one since I was into a project anyway. So what we're doing today is just a QRS secondary clutch for my 800R E-Tech. I bought a set of rollers and they only lasted one season, so I tried to buy a different brand. These ones, I guess it's backwards for you guys, but it's Lifesaver QRS HD rollers for BRP. They're a really good price. And they're supposed to be unbreakable. I don't know if that's true or not, but we're pretty well going to find out. So I'm going to install these back in. What I noticed is somebody was in this and changed this, because normally on this year it had holes where these bolts go through this backside straight down in, and they go in through there. When they go in there, the roller goes on, and then some of them have a small hole in there. This one does not. And then there's a little keyway that goes in there, and that's what holds this from being able to spin off and come back out. Now, this has an older style clutch on it, and they take these, and there's a groove on this for it. So once that slides in, you get your roller in. If there's spacers that go in, and then you put this clip in inside of there. Now, I had a really hard time actually getting this one apart, and I'll show you why. Because the proper puller that you buy from BRP or some other site on the internet, they go inside of this shaft. I made this one. This one's homemade. So what happens is there's this little rubber looking, it was actually just a makeup thing my wife had, but I had to do what I had to do. So anyway, I drilled a hole down through the center of it, tried to add some tape to it just to give it some grip while it's in there. Because what happens is when you tighten this back nut onto this nut, this one's locked down, these two are, so they can't move. This one, as it gets squished down like this, it swells this out and it stays inside of there. And then you put your couplings on like this, tighten her down, and what that does is that pushes on your helix. I'll show you right here. Whoop. Hopefully I don't lose that. I'll show you right here. Here's your helix. And what they got going on in here, always make sure that you check these Teflon bushings. They actually come right off, as you see. You check them, because they do wear out, and it makes your clutch work 100 times smoother, because without that, you'd have that metal riding in there. There's one that goes in here too, which is actually that one. And then that slides over there. But what that puller does, this has grooves where those rollers ride up and down on. I'll show you. And they ride up and down and up and down. And these break, these get fractured and they break over time. But this, I had to build a puller because it presses this on so you can back the 4 bolts off the back, which are located on the back side of this other sheave. Now I did mark this sheave, this, and this, so that way when they all go back together, they go back together right, because these are weighted and they are checked from factory. So you make sure, normally you line up the marks. There's one on there, there's one on there. But I took this to Torque, and they took it apart and put rollers in for me. When I got it back, they were not lined up. Now, I don't know why that is, but I know that it was running fine and it was balanced the way it was. So I made marks. I'll set it back to what it was. But that's what that does. That shoves that in, so you can take the coupler off. This thing off. Actually, you take this off first. Then you push that on, press it, then take those 4 bolts out, pop it out. So I'm hoping that these rollers work way better. And they're super easy to install. These ones did not come with any clips, or not clips, but spacers. Now I took the old ones off that was already on there, and they had a spacer on them. So really, I'm half tempted to try to get that spacer on the outside, because that's where it is on the videos that I watched on YouTube. So I'm just not sure. I don't think it's supposed to go on, because if I put that in, I might not have enough space to put that C-clip back on. So that's what I'm up to right now. I got to get my dad's sled in, and he's coming out later, and we're going to tackle his. So hopefully I can get a little bit of video on that too. We're going to pull his suspension out. We need to change the track, and we need to change a rad. And I think a gear he wants changed. And I think some bearings. I think some jack shaft bearings. So hopefully I'll have some of that on this video. I'll see if I can add it all in. And I'd like to drive the sled around the yard, the Mach 1. Just have a little rip. It is snowing outside right now. We do not have a lot of snow. So I'm going to put this back together. Literally, you just put them in, put the bolt back in, put a little bit of Loctite on your bolts. Not too much. Make sure it's blue too. You put it back together, let it sit, then we'll throw it back together. I have a new thing because that puller didn't really seem to work. So one of my good friends from work told me what they use at work for kind of the same thing on one of the machines at work. So it pulls pipe through. Same concept. And they use these pucks. You just get them at your local hardware store. I don't know. I got Canadian Tire. You drill a hole in it. You cut it the size of this. And you replace this one that I jimmy rigged yesterday. And hopefully that'll grip a lot better in there. Because last night this worked. And I did get it apart. But I watched this thing. Pew! Torpedo. Across the shop. With all the spring pressure. Was not good. It was not good. Didn't hurt nothing. So, we're good. So, I'll leave it off of that. Hopefully I'll add some more video in here. Yeah, so I'm going to show you real quick what I got going on. I have the new rubber in here. I have a washer on the back. Two nuts on the back. Rubber, or washer, rubber. Then another washer. And then this bolt. As you tighten this in, those other ones are locked down so they can't move. It'll squish the rubber. See if I can show you. And all I did was take that puck and I cut it into a circle like this and drilled a hole in it. So that's what's inside of there. And as you squish it, it expands, and that's what holds this puller inside this shaft. Now you guys are going to watch my first time trying it with the new piece. This is the old one. It's literally a makeup thing. But it worked, but not good enough. Because you put a lot of tension when you put that spring on there. So we're going to try to tighten this down. And you need to tighten it right down too. I found that out last night because it puts a lot of torque on that. That spring is not a weak spring. I see I'm going to have a problem with holding the shaft. Hopefully I brought home another nut. Yeah, I did. So what I might have to do, if I got two of these nuts, I'll lock them down here so I can hold this from spinning, and I'll keep tightening that up. Hopefully I have another one. Because I just need to get that threaded rod from spinning. Because if it's spinning, it's not going to do what it's supposed to do on the inside. And that still right there is pretty strong, but that's not enough. There's so much tension on this when that spring's on there. So I'm just going to have to look around here and see if I have one to fit. So I found another nut. It's a little bit too big, but it was good enough to lock down to this one. So I can hold it here. Actually here. And then I can tighten this. Because I didn't think there was that much pressure on it last night until it come flying off there like a shotgun. So you want to make sure that that's torqued down. Then we'll just grab another wrench and back this off. There we go. And I've never done this stuff before, just in case anybody's wondering. Just kind of learn as I go. And I knew I needed a puller, and I needed to be able to change these by myself, so I don't have to pay somebody else to do it. So, we got that on. Again, check and make sure that's on there. Put your spring on there. Make sure your other Teflon is on the inside of here as well. Line your lines up. Make sure that kind of seats back into its spot too. Line it up. And see, now this is snug down now. So we should be able to put this on. Our cup on. This piece. Then I put a washer on, because if not, the little nut would just sink down in that groove. So just spin this on. And you make sure that everything is completely straight, lined up. And you kind of hold it as it's going. And that's going in. I'll see if I can put you at a different angle so you guys can see. And the more you do this, the more tension it puts on that threaded rod. So you have to be careful, because it builds a lot of tension. And all you're doing is pushing this back in to its place, and then you put your 4 bolts on the back. And don't forget to put a little bit of Loctite on them. Like I said, this is a homemade tool. Part of this is not homemade. This part and this part are not. As I said, they're for ball joints and stuff for vehicles. But the threaded rod and bolts and washers are all stuff that I bought. Oh, see? It didn't hold. As soon as it builds pressure, it popped out. That means that I didn't get that tight enough in there, which is okay. It's probably going to take a couple tries. Just take her back off. There's a lot of pressure on that. So I'm going to have to get that nut and bolt extremely tight in there. So I'm going to set it back up and we'll try again. Alright, we're back trying again. Put you over here in case it happens to blow off of there. So we just have the same thing. Line your sheaves up. Keep tightening this. It's real sketchy. She's either going to go in or it's going to go kabang. It's super sketchy because there's a lot of pressure on that. I'm trying not to get anywhere near this, so if it goes kapow, it's not going to take me out. So I'm just going to take my flashlight right now and look in there. Kind of see how everything's doing. she's going. She's actually about part way in there, which is great. Actually, I think it's in enough that I can put the bolts on. So as I say, I use a little tiny bit of Loctite, if I can find it. So we're going to match those up, line them up. Make sure you don't cross thread them. Because you'll be dealing with a bigger problem. As long as I can get a couple threads in, then I can start lining them all up. I think I might have to go a little bit further, but I don't really want to. Sketchy. Alright, well I'll show you guys after I get them all in. This is what I got so far. Got her all back together. Got them all tightened in. Got them torqued down to specs. So, I got to put this back in. I'll set that down for a second. So I'm over here. So, I was trying to replace this rod right here, because my brother gave me one, but the one I got from him was too short. They come off different sleds. His is a 1200, where this is the 800 two-stroke. My guess is this one is a shorter distance from there to there on his sled, because mine is like at least an inch longer. I was hoping I could loosen these up down here, move this up, but it's not going to happen. So I put the old one back on. It'll be fine for now. You want to clean that bearing slot out real good. Make sure there's nothing in there. I do have a few extra things to put back together. This has got to go back on, which goes in there. The air box has got to go back on. These need torque back down. So basically we're just getting her back together. It is a pain in the butt to take the clutch off these sleds. But as you see over here, I got the chain out. I'm changing the oil. I'm going to clean that all out. I'm putting new chain case oil in her. Check the bearings. Everything seems good. Check the chain tensioner. There's no marks on it. It's not real wore. So we're going to drop some of that in, put the battery back in. We might take her out for a little spin tonight. Just around the yard, but still, it's been a while. So maybe I'll see if I can find a way to record the whole thing so you guys can see what I'm doing.